Hello and welcome. So I'm back at Kent University for part 2 of the Tramadol study. I did part 1 last week, which was the VO2 max test. There's a video out for that and I'll put the link in the description below. So if you've not already seen it, go and have a look at that and you'll find out what this is all about. But today is part 2 of the study and I'm doing a 25-mile time trial, best effort, either with or without Tramadol. So I'll give an a pill and it's either a placebo or Tramadol, I don't know which. So that's enough waffling, let's get mashing. So here we are, back in the lab, back on the gerbil wheel, coming to the end of the warm-up. It's 40 minutes since I've had the drug, and it turns out it was in a drink, it wasn't a tablet. When I say drug, it could have been the placebo, not sure, placebo or Tramadol, red pill, blue pill, don't know. So counting down to the next bit, which is not the time trial, oh no, not yet. I now have to ride for 30 minutes at my aerobic threshold power plus 5%, which based on last week's max test is 294 watts. So just counting me down now, and during this I have to give a bit of feedback onto levels of pain and effort.
5, 3, 2, 1, off we go, 30 minutes now.
So the idea of this 30-minute ride before the TT is to induce a bit of fatigue so that any positive effect of the Tramadol is more obvious during the test, which is great for the study but not so great for me. So aerobic threshold plus 5%, what does that actually mean? Well, it's a kind of annoying effort, it's far from easy, but it's not really a full-on race pace effort. It's the kind of effort you have to make when a bonehead so-called mate is trying to half-wheel you, force you to ride just that little bit faster than you want to, if you know what I mean. Put it another way, which any time trialist will understand. You're late leaving the HQ due to an overlong visit to the toilet, and it means you've got to absolutely ride Harry Flatters to the start, draining your resources before you even get to the start of the race, so you don't miss the start time. So here's a little bit of feedback from researchers about my perceived exertion, RPE, and there's a box you'll see me adjusting in a minute, which I just adjust according to the level of pain that I'm feeling, and that's all recorded. So I'm finding this effort quite hard. You can see it's having the effect of tiring me out. Just over halfway through here, and I find it quite frustrating mentally as well. It's quite difficult, so I just wanted to get on with the time trial. I was knowing that this was depleting my energy reserves. So RPE again, and finally getting to the end of this bit. And as you can see, I'm sort of looking pretty tired, and I'm not really looking forward to the time trial by now at all. Still raise a smile though. So finally finished the 30 minutes, and now I have to give some pretty comprehensive feedback on my pain levels. It's all in a bit of a kind of code, I'm just calling out numbers. I won't bore you with the details, but it's basically the levels of pain and type of pain that I'm feeling.
2, 9, 1, 12, yeah, 1. That's about it really.
Okay.
Is that right? Yeah. It's like between 2 and 3.
2.5?
Yeah, 2, yeah, if you can do it. It's like, it's just naggingly annoying, but I'm not like, it's like, just go away.
That's right.
So finally, the bit you've all been waiting for, the 40k time trial. Just 10 seconds now before we get going. You're going to count me in a minute.
Yeah, I'm ready.
10 seconds.
3, 2, 1, and go.
Have a bit of a change of that. Jesus Christ.
So I've got no data here other than the distance I've covered. There's no heart rate, power data, cadence, speed, nothing. Just my internal effort gauge and the constant feedback loop of can I maintain this effort. It's either yes, I'm going too easy, no, I'm going too hard, or maybe, which is the right answer. So I quickly realised that my usual sense of pacing was out of the window thanks to the 30-minute ride, and I found it really difficult to settle into any kind of rhythm. So yeah, it's pretty obvious I was going too hard, so the answer was a definite no to the question, can I maintain this effort? I had to ease off just a little bit. So 10k in and a quick leg stretch, then back to the grind. And one thing I did forget to mention is actually cash prizes for the fastest combined times of the two TTs, just to give an incentive and make it a bit more competitive. So about 20k in, halfway, and I'm feeling pretty awful, and everything's hurting now, and I just want to stop. To pass the time, I ended up counting elephants. So 1 elephant, 2 elephants, 3 elephants, to find out how many elephants I could do in a kilometre. And it turns out it took me about 80 elephants per kilometre. So yeah, a bit further in, and my legs are aching, my back's sore, my eyes are stinging from a river of sweat flooding into them, but I can't stop. Got to keep going, all in the name of science. So unlike the max test where it ends pretty quickly, this just goes on and on and on, and it's like death by 1,000 cuts. Come on, think of the glory, think of the money. That's a bit dry retching there. So it's about 25k done, still grinding away. Come on, keep mashing. I mean, this is how you enjoy riding your bike. None of this escape to the countryside nonsense or riding up the mountains, looking at the scenery. This is what it's all about. Pedalling nowhere, looking at a blank wall. Fantastic. So 30k done, and time for another leg stretch, and I am really dying now. The only plus is mentally it's getting a little bit easier as I'm into the last 10 kilometres. So if you ever read a sports science study and it coldly says, volunteers perform the best effort 40k time trial or rode a VO2 max test, this is the reality. Someone somewhere in a lab is sweating their arse off. Oh, that's it. The wheels are coming right off now. That was for all you sports scientists out there. Riding in a dark tunnel now, and the sides are really closing in, or something like that. Anyway, it felt bloody awful in case you're wondering. I'm pretty desperate now. I just want to finish. That's all I'm thinking about now. Just keep going and finish. So any second now the battery runs out on the camera, but I promise I did make it. I've no idea of the time, average power, nothing like that. I won't find out until the study is complete sometime in May next year. So I'll leave you with my thoughts as I staggered out of the lab some while later. Well, that's the test. Well, that's the test done. My battery and my camera ran out, unfortunately. I don't know how much footage I got, quite a bit, but appropriately enough, I'm standing in a tunnel here, and it felt like I was just riding down a tunnel for an hour on that bike. Jesus Christ. No idea what I had, whether it's a placebo or a tramadol effects-wise either, because it was just horrific all round. Might be able to compare next week, after next week's test. But, God, my legs are just fizzing and stinging and twitching still. So I'm going to go home. Well, the other half's going to drive me home, thankfully, and I'm going to lay in the back and go to sleep. So, till next week, see you later.
Well, this is 3 hours later after the test finished.
Yeah.
How are you feeling?
Broken. I had some food. I do think it was tramadol because I feel absolutely spaced out and wasted. Very broken.